Yes, that's right. It's Joe here, live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A. Very exciting times. For those of you who are in the going fast department, the speed stick leaderboard has just been updated. That's why I'm running a few minutes late. And we're also going to kick this session off with the results from the very exciting competition, which was from episode 140 of Show Us Your Cat, where we've got a brand new, what would you call it, title thing. It's quite similar to the old one, to be honest, but I thought it was better. Brand new titles for Show Us Your Cat, where there are different catamarans featured, and the competition was who could name all of the different catamarans in the intro of Show Us Your Cat. And I thought I would just take you through what those boats were. I'll just check in first with everyone who's checking in. So we've got Has Racing on board, who believes that this is exciting. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. This is exciting. Frank's with us as well. It must be morning where you are. And good morning to you too, sir. Leland Lee is on board, this time not in Florida, but in Las Vegas, Nevada. Nice. Whereas Frank is flying the flag for Clearwater, Florida. And we've got Armored Lion in New Jersey. Hanny's with us in Amsterdam. And Zach is on board, joining from cold, blowing Ohio. Oh, yeah. We got Ron C in Singapore. Bernhard is with us, I believe, in Austria. And Francois in France. Zach is in the Toledo area, by the way, of Ohio. And then we've got Glubschli, Glub from Denmark on board. Everybody is in. Thorn G is with us in Germany. I think I'm guessing that everybody is here because of the excitement in the room regarding this competition, the Show Us Your Cat competition. All right, I'm just going to go a little bit off piste and move my, I could have done this nicer using OBS, which is outside broadcast studio software, but I thought I would do this the kind of more analog way of hello webcam on the move. And here we are. So we're starting off with answers on a postcard. Yeah, so first boat in the lineup was, yes, this is an A-class, of course. So next one, just hitting the cursor to, oh, wrong. All right, I've got to select which screen I'm operating. All right, I hope everyone's enjoying this. This is exciting stuff. So number 2, yes, that is a Formula 18, and that is based on C2 without a deck sweeper sail. So very well done to everybody who got C2. But Formula 18, I was counting as correct as well. Sorry about the shaky camera. It's just being held in my hand. Okay, next one. Yep, that is, of course, the Dart 18. Classic British design. And then next, we've got a Hurricane 5.9, which was built by, who was this built by? It was built by White Formula, that's Reg White's company, as a training boat for the Tornado. Similar specification to the Tornado, but much narrower, so you could tow it behind a car. All right, next one. That is actually, to get this right completely, that would be a Hobie 14 Turbo. Yes. All right, next time you watch Show Us Your Cat, you're going to feel so much more connected with what is going on there. This is, of course, Hobie 16. And moving forwards, this is a Hobie 17. Now, what I could have done is put it to the live chat, who can get this, but this might have become a bit dragged out with 30 people all saying that's a Hobie 16. It's a lot of scrolling. That's a Hobie 18 Classic, I like to call it. The Classic Hobie 18. And then this would be the first major curveball This is the Hobie 20. Oh, yeah. Not everyone got that one. This is even more of a curveball. This is based on a Nacra 5.7. Ooh, really? I hear you cry. This little sporty fella. This is actually the Nacra 500 Mark II. Oh, yes, it is. All right. Scrolling forwards. This is the Nacra 17, the Olympic class, as you can tell. All right. Moving on. This is the Prindle 18, classic. Then this is the Taipan. I can't remember which sort. I just wrote this down as anyone getting Taipan would get this one right. I did leave the insignia on the sale on this one to make it a bit easier. But that's the Taipan, which I believe is an Australian class. Then we've got one of the best boats ever built, the Hobie Tiger. Oh, yes, a beauty. Moving forwards. This is a Topcat. Off the top of my head, I think this might be a Topcat K4X. Could be wrong. Answers on a postcard, please. I've got it written down somewhere. Moving forwards, this, of course, is the Tornado. And then finishing off, everybody's favorite, the Hobie Wave. Okay, so that's 18 boats there. Oh, yes. All right. Getting back on station. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of a tour of the screen 2 in the Joyrider TV studios here. All right, just getting organized. Yeah, so the winner of this challenge, who scored 17 out of 18, all I've got at the moment is the YouTube username, and that name is Chillahification. Yeah, so if Chillahification is tuned in, then let us know and we'll get in touch and your prize will be winging its way to you very shortly. But thanks to everybody for getting involved with that one. I thought that was quite fun to be getting involved with. All right, back to who is tuning in the live chat. We've got Jochen in Germany and Scott is dropping it in the slot. Hello to you guys. And hello to everybody else who is watching this either now or later. And the first question in the preloaded department is actually coming from Francois, who might be FL, who's in the live chat, or a different Francois. The question was correct. Yes. All right. Perfect. Looking at making the sheet load less on the Hobie 16. So the Hobie 16 as standard should have, if it's a more recent Hobie 16, that is like from, when would it be? I would think from about mid 80s onwards, it should have a 6-to-1 purchase system, which here's one I prepared earlier. I should have pulled the blocks together really, but a 6-to-1 purchase system. So we got a triple at the top, triple at the bottom, and that is the standard. Now, if you are running a standard 6-to-1 on whatever boat it is that it doesn't have to be a Hobie 16, could be anything, with a 6-to-1 or whatever purchase system you're running, if you're finding it hard to sheet in, or if you want to make it easier to sheet in and operate the sheet, the first thing we should do before thinking let's add more blocks is the part of the issue with sheeting in isn't always going to be what you think. Like what you think is it's actually that's hard to pull in. But what it might be is it's actually gripping the rope, which makes it much harder to pull in than it could be. All right, I've just got. Yeah, we've got some ratchet in the studio today. So and maybe you can see just the difference between these two ropes. It's pretty subtle, but it's this is a 9mm and this is supposedly an 8mm, but this, I think this is more like a 7. And when you have to grip the rope so much harder, because it's a thinner rope, it makes it much harder to sheet in. Whereas when you've got a thicker rope, much easier. But then, of course, with a thicker rope, it's not going to run through the blocks quite as well. So that is number one consideration, is look at the rope that you're using in your main sheet system and maybe consider changing the rope before changing the blocks. If you can get hold of a different rope that you could put in there that's perhaps a bit thicker or even similar diameter but a bit grippier rope, just so you don't, because this grip strength is, you know, this is hard. If it's like sheeting in a lot with this one, you know, I do find it fairly reasonably hard compared to this, which I think this is some of the best rope I've ever come across. This, I believe, is called the Marlowe Z Taper 9mm. Oh, there we go. FL says I use Dyneema 9mm. Yeah, which should be the perfect rope already. Second thing to consider before upgrading is just make sure, I'm not suggesting, Francois, that that you haven't already looked at this, but that make sure that you have got a ratchet on your bottom block which engages nicely. Because if you haven't got a ratchet on the bottom block, unless the rope is in the cleat, you're getting no assistance at all with staying sheeted in. Yes, so Francois has one. So you're probably wondering why I'm not just saying, yeah, go for an 8-to-1 straight away. But yeah, go for an 8-to-1. But the things to consider when what's the word? When adding more purchase to your system is when the rope is going around more blocks, there's more friction. So it's like every time the rope has to bend around the block like this, it is adding friction to the system. So that is one consideration. That is why, you know, a lot of the Hobie 16 racing fraternity with the newer boats, this is what they come supplied with. This is the 40mm Harken top block. So we can compare that to the 57, which is much more of the standard. And you can see that this is a much smaller block. But the reason that this is popular in the real high-end racing is because it's smaller, it means you can sheet in more. It's also a bit lighter, little bit lighter, and looks more racy. But with the smaller block, the rope has to bend much more than with a bigger block. So with a bigger block, it doesn't have to bend so much. So at the other end of the scale, I've got my Allen Dynamic 60 blocks. These are, for the sort of sailing that we're talking about, these are huge, but they give you so much assistance, the bigger blocks. The Allen Dynamic 60s are actually cheaper than the Harkens as well. Not that that should come into it so much if we're just looking for what is best, but you can see the size difference, and you can see that this radius that it turns round, it's not going to create as much of a sharp bend in the rope, so less friction there. All right. Yeah, so to upgrade to the 8-to-1, the major downside of more purchase, if we're not, you know, there's going to be more friction, especially when it comes to sheeting out in lighter winds. So there's going to be more resistance when you try to sheet out. But the main downside of more purchase on your main sheet is going to be that to move the sail the same amount, you're going to have to pull more rope. There's going to be an equation somewhere, or anybody from the maths department would surely know how much more rope by adding 2 more blocks to your purchase system, how much more rope you'd have to pull to move the boom from being out to in. But I would expect it to be an extra meter of rope, or if not a bit more, which means when you're sheeted in hard, there's going to be much more rope on the trampoline. So this is the main downside of having more purchase. So there we go. Upside is, yes, it's definitely going to be easier to sheet in. Perhaps it's not going to sheet out quite as easily, but in the strong wind, when it counts, it should do. So there we go. I think that is all I've got on this topic of adding purchase to your main sheet system. Yeah, I think that's about the size of it. And how would you go about doing it? What would be ideal would be if you could use the same bottom block and then just add another block, like shackled with a small shackle onto the becket on the front there. And then ideally, rather than using a top block like this, which has got a becket on it, it'd be better, if possible, to get a block which has 4 sheaves in a row. I haven't actually, yeah, so this has got 5, but with 4 in a row, so but without the becket, so then you can still sheet in pretty much block to block, so you can still get the same amount of tension on the sail. Because if you've got a becket on there, then you're not going to be able to get as close when sheeting in. That's what I reckon. I hope that helps, Francois. And good luck with getting back out on the water. All right, very good. Oh, and Francois says, can you remind me who is making this dynamic 60? It's Alan, spelled Allen. It's a British company. They do a 60, but they also do a smaller one as well. I can't remember what the smaller one is, but really nice blocks. But the 60, as well as being bigger, they are, I'd say, significantly heavier, but they do make it easier. There we go. Allen blocks. Very good. All right. Who else is on board? All right. I think everyone who's on board is on board. All right. Has Racing says, got so close to winning. Oh, well. Yeah. That's the nature of the beast. It's all a close game. All right, we've got John on board. Hello, John. Are you planning on going to the Hobie 14 North American Championships in Canada this year? I think you probably mean next year, in 2025, I should think. I wasn't planning on it. If you could put in the live chat when that is, because at the moment I've got 2 trips to the USA planned. And if it would tie in to one of those trips, then perhaps, because as you will know, I had a lovely time racing the Hobie 14. Such fun boat to race. And it was my first time racing single-handed, which was a real eye-opener as well. And I would be very happy to do it again. That is what I am saying on the topic. I'm keen, but Is it possible? We'll see. There we go. All right. What else is, yeah, before we proceed with the next preloaded video, not video, question. We have got some more things in the pipeline on Joyrider TV. When I say we, in England, we would call it the royal we, which means me. I have got, I just try not to make it all about me. So we have got some more videos coming very soon. And in fact, the next one is coming today. Because what I thought was, it's a very good time to put a video together with this topic of what are the perfect gifts to buy for the catamaran sailor in your life. The catamaran sailor in your life might actually be you. So what gifts would be perfect to buy for yourself? Very nice. But it might be, you know, if your significant other is struggling to work out what to get you for Christmas, you could just push this video in front of her and loads of good ideas there. So I'm actually going to launch, new rigging. That would be a good gift, wouldn't it? It's quite sort of in the technical end of things for perhaps a non-sailor to get you as a surprise. I think that would definitely need a bit of, all right, I've sent you the link. This is what I want. But yeah, I'm going to launch that video shortly after we've finished the live Q&A, just because a lot of the prices that I found for things are part of the Black Friday discounting sales things. So there is a little bit of a time is of the essence with that one. And then, yes, so that today, then on Sunday, you're going to like it. It's the return of What Went Wrong. Oh, yeah, a full episode of What Went Wrong, which is, you know, I like What Went Wrong as much as everybody else does. So in What Went Wrong, if you haven't seen it, what I do is I look at other people's video clips of things not going quite so well. And then we slow it down and we analyze what happened and what led to the thing that happened. So it's good for entertainment, but it's also very educational, which I've heard is the highest form of video, is something combining those two things. So that'll be on Sunday, by the way. All right, back to the live chat. All right, John said, loved your Hobie 14 videos. Yeah, I think people thought of me as being quite strange, just talking to myself around the race course. But some of, you know, you've got to do what you've got to do. Scott says, do you have the dates for the Hilton Head Regatta? Yeah, it's the end of October. Something around the 25th, I believe. If I no, I'm not going to do that. I was going to dangerously open a new tab and look at my calendar, but I'm not going to do that because that's dangerous. But I think it's about that weekend of the 25th of October next year. And yes, I will be at the Hilton Head Regatta it's a 50-50 chance I get this right, in North Carolina, USA next year. I'm looking forward to that. So for everybody who needs to know, which is everybody, the North American Hobie 14s next year, September the 8th to the 11th at Burlington Beach Catamaran Club, which from what you said before, I assume that's in Canada. I would absolutely love to go there, but unfortunately those dates don't tie in with another one of my trips to the States next year, and I can't really do a third one, not in 1 year. So no, I won't be making it to that one. Sorry about that. But everybody else should do. That is what I'd say. Okay. Next question coming in. This is from Ron CFPV. Oh, yeah. Okay. And Ron says, some questions about speed. It's a topic that I'm quite into. Flying the hull, while fun, doesn't necessarily get the best speed, question mark. I would agree. There is a certain amount of hull flying which is good for speed, and then when you go beyond that, it's not good for speed. So what we're looking for ideally when it comes to how much hull to lift to get speed is we want to get the windward hull clear of the water, so that it is not going to touch down, so that the hull is definitely up like this. There we go. But if we go beyond that and get the hull flying so much that, let's say, the whole rudder is out and maybe there's a bit of air between the whole rudder and the water, so it's up at this kind of angle, then we're going to be losing potential for two reasons. If we fly the hull this much, one reason is because when we're flying the hull this much, let's get our rig, as well as that being up like that, the rig is going to be over. So I'm trying to keep this straight on. The rig is going to be over a lot, which means we're going to be losing a hell of a lot from the rig. If you look at the difference in how tall the rig is from there to there, and we're going to lose most of our effective sail area if we fly the hull too high. So that's one reason why it's not so quick. Other reason why it's not so quick is if we fly the hull a certain amount, we're not going to get any more, what would you call it? We're going to lose the effectiveness of whatever our method of leeway prevention is on the boat. So if it's on a boat with the asymmetric hulls like this, it would be the flat outside of the hull. It might be, we're really getting creative here. It might be your dagger boards. So when you fly the hull too much, that dagger board's not going to grip and we're just going to slide sideways. If it's a skeg hull, same sort of thing. So those are the two reasons why flying the hull super high isn't very quick. And for those of you who enjoy flying a hull of an occasion, you will know when you fly it really, really high, the boat almost stops. And that's because we haven't really got any sail area anymore to actually make us go. We're just balancing the weight of the rig against the weight of the boat and the sailors involved. So there we go. But we do want the hull out of the water, definitely. All right. So, and then part two of the question is, I didn't see you adjust the jib that much. Is that because you're focused on the main to avoid dunking? Yeah, when sailing solo, certainly I am definitely focused in those speed runs, definitely focused on the mainsail. I'm putting the jib in roughly what I consider to be the right position. So if it's really windy, I will have the jib flapping slightly because the jib has got enough power in it that if it was sheeted incorrectly, not flapping, and you get a big gust and you can't let the jib out and you don't want to alter the course to lose power, there's enough power in the jib on its own if you completely dump the mainsail to still pull you over, which is why when it's really windy, sailing single-handed this is, I will have the jib flapping slightly just to make sure that it's not going to capsize me. And then most of the power, almost all of the power control is done with the main sheet. So I'll set the traveler into what I feel is roughly the right position. So when I pull the main sheet in as much as I'm going to pull it in, it's block to block. And by having the traveller further out, it means working with less main sheet. Whereas when you've got the traveller too much in and you can't ever get it block to block or at maximum tension, then it means you have to sailing with the main sheet eased all the time means you do have to work it a lot more frequently with a lot more rope. So that is what we're doing in that arena. Oh yeah. Okay. So but if you were sailing with two people on the boat, then yeah, for sure the jib should be getting worked as well as the main. So when you get the big gust, the jib should just be easing slightly. And then when the hull stops going up, bringing it back in, playing the telltales on the jib. So having it in the perfect spot, that is really going to help you go that bit faster. There we go. Hope that helps. Valuable information today. All right. So next in the live chat, and I believe also in, yes, and also the next question in the preloaded comes from Vladislav, who says, I have a Hobie 14 with a jib and a luff wire, so I need a halyard to lift it, but I also have a furler. How can I make a furler and a jib halyard work together? All right, this is a great question. So let's get artistic, shall we? So let's have a mast. All right, so it's a good job you tuned in, because I think I misunderstood slightly your question, which was to make a jib Cunningham system that would work while you're sailing along. But to have a furler and a jib halyard working, what we would usually do is we basically use a Hobie 16 style jib halyard, which is the one with the two blocks like this. And what do we have? I did this last week and I couldn't quite remember. The bigger block is at the top. So there we have two wheels. There we have where it's tied off. There's that. And there's the shackle that goes on to the top of the jib. So this is the jib here. All right. So then with the way this works is it will be tied off here, will it? No, it'll be tied off here, beg your pardon. And then the rope will go round this block. So that is a block, round that block, round that block. No, I think I was right the first time actually, but so it'd be tied off here. And then, all right, I'm going to get this right. So then it'd go. Oh, is there another block there? All right. Anyway, we've got a purchase system at the top of the jib. Does anybody get the feeling that I'm making a bit of a hash of this? Yes. But we've got this purchase system on the jib halyard, which wants to be like a 3 or a 4 to 1. So, no. Oh, there's another block here. That's what it is. So, so it will end up here, and then from there we're sort of changing scale there. Then so that would be all going on like here, and then that will come down the mast, and then we'll tie that off on a cleat. But I know what you're thinking, but how does this allow me to have a furling jib? Well, what we would want on this system is here. I think we'd have it here. Yeah, here where the jib halyard gets shackled on to the jib. In this space here, we would want to have a swivel, which would be, there's a few different types we could use. Obviously, we want the type which is the right size. But the most sort of prominently used is kind of like a stainless steel swivel with an eye at both ends. And then the swivel will mean that the halyard won't twist, but the jib will be free to rotate. Yeah, and in fact, yeah, I think that is the way. Yeah, so there we go. That is part one of your question. So part two, is there any sense in investing money to add a jib traveler track on the Hobie 14? No. All right, now the reason here that we're not going to put jib trap like Hobie 16 style Hobie 16 style jib tracks on the front beam, because of the geometry of the boat. If we have the jib sheets coming onto the front beam, the pull from the jib sheets is going to be much too much straight down like this, which means if that pull is straight down like this, we're going to get a very tight leech on the jib and a very curved foot because we're pulling too far straight down. So the way that it should be on the 14 is, if we just draw the top of the, so if this is the trampoline, there's the lacing down the middle. So there it is. You should see on the trampoline, if it is a Hobie 14 turbo trampoline, if it's not, you might have to get small modification done. Then what we'd have is we'd have a small hole on both sides of the trampoline like that. And then what we'd have from between the two shrouds. So if this is the shrouds, so here's the shrouds looking like this. So from underneath the beam between the two shrouds, and I'll draw this kind of dotted, there should be a wire running across here, all the way across the boat. And then what happens is the jib cleat. So there should be a block with a cleat on it, like so. There's the block. It will have a becket where we tie the end of the rope to, and then in front would be a cleat. So the shackle on the bottom, there's the shackle. I hope you're enjoying this drawing. Would go through the hole around the wire, so the wire would come through the shackle like that, and then the jib sheet would anchor here through the jib, then back through the cleat and across to the other side. So a block on the clew of the jib. Thus, hope that makes some sort of sense. That makes sense to me. I hope that made sense to you as well. All right, so continuing with Vlad's questions. Yes, the jib halyard is kind of like the Aussie style halyard, on the Aussie halyard style jib halyard system, where this comes down the mast, where can I draw? If we've got a close up of the mast, it would go. So if it's the same way around, we'd have a block on the front of the mast like this. So the rope would go round that block. Then there'd be a block on the side of the mast like here. So the rope would come down round through. I'll draw it on in a second. Round that block and then through a cam cleat here, and then tied off on a horn cleat. So the actual routing of the rope would be the rope would come down like this, around the block, up around this block, through the cleat, and then we cleat it on the horn cleat there. So that's the Aussie version. But on a 14, that is a bit overkill. So all we need to do is this just needs to be a horn cleat like this on the front of the mast. And that is fine for the 14. There we go. All right, next part of the question. And if the jib without luff wire and still need forestay in place? Yes. So if I think traditionally a Hobie 14 jib would have a luff wire, which would mean you'd actually take the original forestay. You wouldn't have the actual forestay on the boat. So the jib would hold the mast up effectively. But if the jib hasn't got a luff wire, then it means that the rig tension would still need to be on the forestay, not on the not on the luff of the jib. So it's only the boats which have got a wire that runs through the luff of the jib should be supporting the rig tension on the jib. If you haven't got a wire in the luff of the jib and you put the rig tension on the jib, you're going to damage the jib. You might just stretch it, but chances are if you put a lot of tension through it and you go out when it's windy, sheet the main sheet in, you probably rip the jib in half. Yeah. Thank you very much. Let's not do that. All right. And then, yeah, so what you would want to do is you'd want to have the forestay wire going from the furler to the swivel, so that the forestay swivels as well. Because what you don't want is to pull the furler and maybe the forestay's running outside of all this, but the forestay needs a swivel, because otherwise you're going to be twisting the forestay wire, which is going to really make it deteriorate very quickly, and that bad boy is going to snap a lot sooner than it would do otherwise. There we go. I hope that made some sense there, Vlad. Yeah, so good luck with that. But yes, and if you know, with stuff like this, if it doesn't make complete sense and you want to send me some pictures so that I can have a look at what the layout is on your boat specifically, then do feel free to do that. My email address is all over the place. Yeah, yes, it's clear about the swivel and the forestay, but how to be with the halyard system. Yeah, I think my drawing perhaps didn't help very much of the halyard system. But yeah, send me pictures of what you've got and we'll come up with some sort of solution. Like, it sounds like what might be a good solution would be similar to that that's on the Dragoon, the 13-foot boat, where we don't have the same system as on the 16. Instead, we have kind of more similar to, in fact, let's get rid of all of this. More similar to what we have on like a Hobie Tiger or a boat with a zip. Yeah, exactly. Where you've got, so this is the furler here with a attachment here, and then here's the forestay that goes to the swivel. And in fact, what it would go to is you've got this, let's say this is the swivel, and then this is a block which the forestay is attached to at the top, and that block is what attaches. So this block effectively becomes part of the forestay, and the whole of this block needs to be metal because it's taking the weight of the rig. And then what we'd have is much simpler system, is basically, if we have our jib, it obviously wouldn't be away from the forestay as much as this, but so that would be attached down here. And so from the jib, the actual halyard would go over the block, and then you could have it so it just goes over the block once down to the bottom, and you tie it off at the bottom like that, so that then the whole lot just furls when you furl it. Or you could have it if you wanted a bit of purchase, which would be a bit more similar to that on a F18, where here you've got an extra pulley, and this will go through a pulley that you have here, or just through a shackle up here and then down. So you've got a purchase there, and that would work very nicely. There we go. I'd just like to say thanks very much to Cucks Ollie for hitting me with a super sticker. The super sticker features a dancing bird with a big thumb. Thanks very much for that. Super stickers are available. At the bottom of the live chat, you'll see a little rectangle with a dollar sign in the middle, and it says, "Show your support for Joyrider TV." Thanks very much, Ollie, for that. All right, so I'm going to move on at this time, if I may. I hope that explains something there, Vlad. But if, like I said, if you want to send me any pictures, then I'll be happy to take a look at them to see if we can get any closer to the truth. All right, we got Peter on board in Sweden. All right, so Peter says, been speaking to Martin Melcheski. What a great guy. Oh, yes, I'd have to agree. That's Martin Melcheski, who makes the most exotic, nice, strong tiller extensions on the planet. Oh, yes, very nice. And he's doing a complete custom tiller and rudder rebuild for my Tornado as they keep popping up. Wow, amazing. So you sending your rudder system to Wisconsin, USA to be worked on? That sounds like a very good option. Nice. Ollie says, have a nice day to everyone. Greetings from Northern Germany. I bet it's even darker in Northern Germany than it is here in Western Greece. It's pretty dark here at the moment. All right. Hope everyone's having a lovely time. All right, next one is Jochen, who might be the same Jochen who's in the live chat. Do you think that the braking load of 580 DAN, what's that like? Is that newtons? I'm not from the physics department, but do you think it's sufficient for trapeze wires? Initially, I thought it should be fine, but now that I have this thin Dyneema rope with a diameter of 2.5 mil in my hands, I'm starting to feel a bit unsure. All right. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So I use Dyneema for the trapeze wires on my Tornado. And to be honest, I have complete faith in them. But what I would say the right thing to do with your trapezes is if this is your trapeze wire, I'm doing it in red because the ones that I've got is the ones that I've got are red, in fact. And then you splice it at the top and then splice it through the handle at the bottom. So there's your handle. And that is all that I'm doing with the Dyneema. So all of the adjustment gear that I have on the trapeze, I'm using with something more conventional. So I'm actually using a 6mm, what do you call it, multi-braid? Is that what you call it? Multi-braid, high quality, but with a polyester core. Because it's 6mm, I feel it doesn't need the Dyneema core. It's strong enough. And that is what I'm not doing very well with my purchases today. And there's the trapeze ring just there with a cleat somewhere there. Yeah, because what I don't fancy with the Dyneema, with the uncoated Dyneema, which this is, would actually be for it to be to use it as a running rope. So this is like a static rope, which I think is fine for the Dyneema, but for something that actually runs through blocks and you actually adjust it with your hand, I think you can afford to use a bit of something with a good coating on this part of the adjustment. That is what I feel, and that's what I do, and that fills me with confidence. So there we go. All right, so Cuxolly says yes, the Dyneema is top. The Dyne A is top. Well, I'm not quite getting what you mean there, but anyway. All right, Duke in California, feature in last episode of Show Us Your Cat with the Prindle, says everyone is scared of my Dyneema soft shackles. Yeah, we had somebody actually come out on holiday to Wildwind Sailing Holidays in Greece, who is actually someone who makes Dyneema. And he was explaining the strength of Dyneema rope, and that even 2.5mm is overkill for trapeze wires on a catamaran. It's quite amazing the confidence in the rope that conversation brought about. Okay, next one in the preloaded section. This comes from Coach Jason Berry. All right, Coach, good to have you with us. And by the way, if anybody's got any more questions in the live chat, we're now almost up to an hour. So if your question comes accompanied with a super sticker, then that's good. Otherwise, we'll be raising the eyebrow of this session's been going on for almost long enough. All right, so Jason asks, looking to purchase my first small boat and really keen for something extremely portable. This means inflatable. Looking at a T-Wal versus Minicat. I think everyone knows where I'm going to go on this, but yes, they're sort of similar in what they do, both inflatable types of boat, but the T-Wal or Tywal, spelt Tiwal, is a monohull. So it really depends on whether you prefer the monohull sailing compared to the catamaran sailing. And like with regular boats made of fiberglass or made of plastic, the catamaran, for the size of the boat, is always going to be faster than the monohull. Yes, this is a sweeping statement. People could say, yeah, what about the foiling moth? Oh, speaking of which, I've just seen from up in the live chat, hello to Hans. Nice to have you with us, Hans. Sorry, I missed you there. Hans does actually have a foiling moth and a tornado in his quiver. Nice. Yeah, so I would say the Minicat is going to be, it's going to tick many more boxes than the monohull equivalent, because on the Minicat, I've done the tests. I know that you can load it up with 4 adults if you wanted to. You could either sail it solo or up to 4 grown-ups on board, and it's still fun. It's a very fun boat, very well built, extremely practical. I would guess that the T-Well does pack up smaller because you haven't got 2 hulls. It's going to make it smaller. It's also going to have a smaller rig. Everything about it is going to be smaller. So yes, it will be lighter. But if you can manage having 2 bags, which I think weigh around 30 kilos each, 1 meter 60 long each. So yes, you can take it on an airplane. Then I think the Minicat ticks all the boxes. And you don't necessarily have to go with the same one that I use, the 420, the 360, or the Guppy, even smaller, still with the same attributes as the 420. So I hope that helps. But I think the Minicat, great fun, well built, very practical. All right, Ryan's with us in Maui, Hawaii, who's just dropping by to say, I'm heading out. Going to catch that fall onshore breeze. Oh, yes. All right, have a good sail, Ryan. Take your GPS, see if you can get on the stick if that wind is blowing nicely. But otherwise, I think that is all that we've got time for today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. If you could, before you leave, just hammer that like button with your spare finger. That would be great. Scott is dropping in to say, have you ever sailed the Wasp or the Moth? No and no. I would really like to give them a try, but no, the opportunity has not arisen. What you find, which Hans was finding with his Moth, is unless you've got a really well sorted out, fairly new Moth, it's kind of like for 30 minutes sailing, it's 1 hour's maintenance. Whereas with the Wasp, much more practical, modern design. The Wasp, basically, for those of you who don't know, is a modern version of a Moth. Thanks very much, Scott, for your super sticker, by the way. Very kind of you there. This is what we're talking about. Oh, yes. Yeah, so the Wasp, let's, in fact, because Scott's dropped a super sticker, I'm going to draw a picture. So we have a very narrow hull, which I don't know, but maybe the sailors of these boats call it a fuselage or something. And then we have wings. So we're looking from behind. Have we got a mast available? Yes. Then we've got a mast. And then it flies like that. Very good. And the good bit of the system with these, if I may just use my this hull as the hull to save drawing the hull, on the foil. So this is the foil, the main foil here. What you would have is what's called a wand. Now, I'm not entirely sure how the wand works on the Moth, but I would guess it would come from the bow of the boat like this. So it kind of drags in the water like that. It's just a tiny little thing. It's like a sensor. And then the way that works is that's attached to a mechanism that is attached to the main foil. So it kind of judges the ride height for you. So if you're riding too low, it will tilt the foil backwards to send you up more. And if you're riding too high, it will tilt the foil downwards to bring you back down a bit. Those are quite exaggerated, of course. And the Wasp is a modern version that's made for the mass market of a moth. And they seem like very well sorted out boats. But when you see one, you'll think, oh my gosh, that is tiny. They are so small, but they're like little rocket ships. They're so quick. Yeah, so there we go. But that was a long answer to a short question. The short answer would have been no, I haven't, but would love to try. So there we go. I think that's about the size of it. So if you haven't had enough of my voice, almost immediately what I'm going to do is publish another video, an actual video, pretty much as soon as we've finished here. And this video is going to be and in fact, if I do it as a premiere, that will keep the live chat going. So if you want to chat between yourselves, then that is fine. So I'll launch it as a premiere, and it's on the topic of great ideas of Christmas gifts for catamaran sailors. And, you know, I think you're all really good people and you all deserve a gift. So if you can't trust somebody else to get you the right gift, then yes, you need to get it for yourself. So that's going to go live very shortly in the next 5 minutes. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, there'll be a new episode of What Went Wrong on Sunday. Oh, yes, there will. So there we go. Thanks very much. Thanks to Scott and Cuxolly for jumping in with the super sticker and buying me a bit of dinner. Lovely old job. Otherwise, thanks very much, and I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Very good. Thank you. Goodbye for a bit.